My whole life I've been a fraud. I'm not exaggerating. Pretty much all I've ever done all the time is try to create a certain impression of me in other people, mostly to be liked or admired. It's a little more complicated than that, maybe. But when you come right down to it, it's to be liked, loved, admired, approved of, applauded, whatever. You get the idea. I did well in school, but deep down, the whole thing's motive wasn't to learn or improve myself, but just to do well, to get good grades and make sports teams and perform well, to have a good transcript or varsity letters to show people. I didn't enjoy it much because I was always scared I wouldn't do well enough. The fear made me work really hard, so I'd always do well and end up getting what I wanted. But then once I got the best grade or made all city or got Angela Mead to let me put my hand on her breast, I wouldn't feel much of anything except maybe fear that I wouldn't be able to get it again the next time or next thing I wanted. I remember being down in the rec room in Angela Mead's basement on the couch and having her let me get my hand up under her blouse and not even really feeling the soft aliveness or whatever of her breast, because all I was doing was thinking, now I'm the guy that Mead let get to second with her. Later, that seemed so sad. This was in middle school. She was a very big hearted, quiet, self contained, thoughtful girl. She's a veterinarian now with her own practice. And I never even really saw her. I couldn't see anything except who I might be in her eyes, this cheerleader and probably number two or three among the most desirable girls in middle school that year. She was much more than that. She was beyond all that adolescent ranking and popularity crap, but I never really let her be or saw her as more, although I put up a very good front as somebody who could have deep conversations and really wanted to know and understand who she was inside. Later, I was in analysis. I tried analysis like almost everybody else then in their late 20s who'd made some money or had a family or whatever they thought they wanted and still didn't feel that they were happy. A lot of people I knew tried it. It didn't really work, although it did make everyone sound more aware of their own problems and added some useful vocabulary and concepts to the way we all had to talk to each other to fit in and sound a certain way. You know what I mean. I was in regional advertising at the time in Chicago, having made the jump from media buyer for a large consulting firm, and at only 29 I'd made creative associate. And verily, as they say, I was a fair-haired boy and on the fast track, but wasn't happy at all, whatever happy means. But of course I didn't say this to anybody because it was such a cliche. Tears of a Clown, Richard Cory, etc. And the circle of people who seemed important to me seemed much more dry, oblique, and contemptuous of cliches than that. And so, of course, I spent all my time trying to get them to think I was dry and jaded as well, doing things like yawning and looking at my nails and saying things like, "Am I happy?" is one of those questions that, if it has got to be asked, more or less dictates its own answer, etc. Putting in all this time and energy to create a certain impression and get approval or acceptance that then I felt nothing about because it didn't have anything to do with who I really was inside, and I was disgusted with myself for always being such a fraud, but I couldn't seem to help it. Here are some of the various things I tried: EST, riding a 10-speed to Nova Scotia and back, hypnosis, cocaine, sacrocervical chiropractic, joining a charismatic church, jogging, pro bono work for the Ad Council, meditation classes, the Masons, analysis, the Landmark Forum, the Course in Miracles, a right brain drawing workshop, celibacy, collecting and restoring vintage Corvettes, and trying to sleep with a different girl every night for 2 straight months. I racked up a total of 36 for 61, and also got chlamydia, which I told friends about, acting like I was embarrassed but secretly expecting most of them to be impressed, which under the cover of making a lot of jokes at my expense, I think they were. But for the most part, the 2 months just made me feel shallow and predatory, plus I missed a great deal of sleep and was a wreck at work. That was also the period I tried cocaine. I know this part is boring and probably boring you, by the way, but it gets a lot more interesting when I get to the part where I kill myself and discover what happens immediately after a person dies. In terms of the list, psychoanalysis was pretty much the last thing I tried. The analyst I saw was okay, a big, soft older guy with a big ginger mustache and a pleasant, sort of informal manner. I'm not sure I remember him alive too well. He was a fairly good listener and seemed interested and sympathetic in a slightly distant way. At first, I suspected he didn't like me or was uneasy around me. I don't think he was used to patients who were already aware of what their real problem was. He was also a bit of a pill pusher. I balked at trying antidepressants. I just couldn't see myself taking pills to try to be less of a fraud. I said that even if they worked, how would I know if it was me or the pills? By that time, I already knew I was a fraud. I knew what my problem was. I just couldn't seem to stop. I remember I spent maybe the first 20 times or so in analysis acting all open and candid, but in reality, sort of fencing with him or leading him around by the nose, basically showing him that I wasn't just another one of those patients who stumbled in with no clue what their real problem was or who were to tally out of touch with the truth about themselves. When you come right down to it, I was trying to show him that I was at least as smart as he was, and that there wasn't much of anything he was going to see about me that I hadn't already seen and figured out. And yet I wanted help and really was there to try to get help. I didn't even tell him how unhappy I was until 5 or 6 months into the analysis, mostly because I didn't want to seem like just another whining, self-absorbed yuppie, even though I think even then I was on some level conscious that that's all I really was, deep down.